Welcome to Cock's Corner! My name is John Voth, and this is the show where I eat my own face. AKA the show where I read Harry Potter every single day for an hour. I haven't read it yet. Please don't spoil anything in the chat or comments. Please. And if you're watching this video, please like the last one or this one that pops up because it helps a lot with the algorithm and all that kind of stuff and all that jazz. So last time we got into Voldemort intimidating the hell out of everybody once again and showing the Dracos their place, taking Lucius Malfoy's wand to kill Harry Potter in some way. And then we got the sweetest... I can't say that word. Remembrance from one of Voldemort's old friends in the newspaper that Harry read. So I guess we'll find out what's going on in Harry's life right now, because right now we've only seen him read that section, which was just the sweetest thing. And yeah, we'll get started. Hope you had a good day. I had a full day. A lot of tech stuff that I'm trying to figure out, but hopefully I'll get there eventually. It was quite full, so I'm glad that we get to sit down a bit and read. In memoriam. Okay. Did I adjust my mic? I think I did. We'll see. We'll see. How's my cold? It's a lot better. Thank you for asking, Camilla. It's a lot better. It probably won't be as coffee as it was yesterday. Okay, let's get started. I did say Voldemort instead of Dumbledore. Oopsie daisy. Okay, let's get started. He just finished reading it, so it's going to get into Harry, whatever is happening after he's read that section in the newspaper about Voldemort. I'm going to start off the reading music. Harry finished reading, but continued to gaze at the picture accompanying the obituary. Dumbledore was wearing his familiar, kindly smile, but as he peered over the top of his half-moon spectacles, he gave the impression, even in newsprint, of X-raying Harry, whose sadness mingled with a sense of humiliation. He had thought he knew Dumbledore quite well, but ever since reading this obituary, he had been forced to recognize that he barely had known him at all. Never once had he imagined Dumbledore's childhood or youth. It was as though he had sprung into being as Harry had known him, venerable and silver-haired and old. The idea of a teenage Dumbledore was simply odd, like trying to imagine a stupid Hermione or a friendly blast-ended Scrooge. That's true. I also never once thought of how was Dumbledore raised? How did he get to be the person that he's doing? Oh, the black thing's my mic. Yeah. I don't know what to do with that, but I was moving things around. So you'll have a little, or maybe I can make it lower. Oh, I can. There we go. It's out of camera now, I think. There we go. And it's the same thing. Dumbledore was born with a beard. Oh yeah, Daniel, it's a mirror so I can gaze upon myself while I'm reading. Oh. Okay. He had never thought to ask Dumbledore about his past. No doubt, it would have felt strange, impertinent even. But after all, it had been common knowledge that Dumbledore had taken part in that legendary duel with Grindelwald. Grindelwald. Grindelwald! That's a very German-sounding name. Grindelwald. So he was fighting Germans. He was fighting the Nazis. That's what Dumbledore is doing. He's the one who changed the war. And Harry had not thought to ask Dumbledore what that had been like, nor about any of his famous other achievements. Reuben! We haven't seen Reuben in the chat for a while. No, they had always discussed Harry. Harry's past, Harry's future, Harry's plans. And it seemed to Harry now, despite the fact that his future was so dangerous and so uncertain, that he had missed irreplaceable opportunities when he had failed to ask Dumbledore more about himself. Even though the only personal question he had ever asked his headmaster was also the one he suspected that Dumbledore had not answered honestly. What do you see when you look in the mirror?
I see myself holding a pair of thick woolen socks.
Ah, so sweet. After several minutes, though, Harry tore the obituary out of the prophet, folded it carefully, and tucked it inside the first volume of Practical Defensive Magic and its Use Against the Dark Arts. Then he threw the rest of the newspaper onto the rubbish pile and turned to face the room. It was much tidier. The only things left out of place were today's Daily Prophet, still lying on the bed, and, on top of it, the piece of broken mirror. Harry moved across the room, slid the mirror fragment off today's Prophet, and unfolded the newspaper. He had merely glanced at the headline where he had taken the rolled-up paper from the delivery owl early that morning, and thrown it aside, after noting that it said nothing about Voldemort. Harry was sure that the Ministry was leaning on the Prophet to suppress news about Voldemort. It was only now, therefore, that he saw what he had missed. Across the bottom half of the front page, a smaller headline was set over a picture of Dumbledore striding along looking harried. Dumbledore, the truth at last. Coming next week, the shocking story of a flawed genius considered by many to be the greatest wizard of his generation. Stripping away the popular image of serene, silver-bearded wisdom, Rita Skeeter reveals the disturbed childhood, the lawless youth, the lifelong feuds, and the guilty secrets that Dumbledore carried to his grave. Why was the man tipped to be Minister for Magic content to remain headmaster? Why was the man... what was the real purpose of the secret organization known as the Order of the Phoenix? How did Dumbledore really meet his end? The answer to these and many more questions are explored in the explosive new biography, The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore, by Rita Skeeter, exclusively interviewed by Betty Braithwaite, page 13 inside. Oh, I love the news. The news are always so accurate. Okay, so straight up horse crap right there by Rita Skeeter. Doesn't she remember the warning that Hermione gave her? That she could be turned into a beetle at any time? Hey? Isn't that the warning? She should get turned into a beetle right away after that bull crap. What the hell? What the heck? Alrighty. No, she's an illegal animagus. Oh, she can turn herself into a beetle. Right. Threatened to expose her secret animagus if he published anything in a year. Oh, so she's outside of that condition. Ugh. Harry ripped open the paper and found page 13. The article was topped with a picture showing another familiar face. A woman wearing jeweled glasses with elaborately curled blonde hair. Her teeth bared in what was clearly supposed to be a winning smile. Wiggling her fingers up at him, doing his best to ignore this nauseating image, Harry read on. Okay, this is a long news one. Should I do it again? Should I use it every single time a clip comes up? I guess I will. Here we go again with the news. I guess people don't want it. Everybody's like, no, nah, pass, nope. not for the long ones. It's a really long one. Okay. I'll just do it normally. Just do it! In person, Rita Skeeter is much warmer and softer than a famous... Oh, you know what I can do? You know what I can't do it right now, but I'll do it for next time, so it doesn't have all the intro and the loud music. Yeah. In person, Rita Skeeter is much warmer and softer than her famously ferocious quill portraits might suggest. Greeting me... Oh, wait. Oh, no, this is... Okay, another voice. So we have Betty Braithwaite. Betty Braithwaite. Can we get some adjectives for this Betty Braithwaite? Because I do not think that we've had her before, and since it's a very long section, I might as well do the same thing I did yesterday with old dude, generic interviewer, young. Okay, true. I'll make up a voice. Gossip reporter voice. All right. Okay.
In person, Rita Skeeter is much warmer and softer than her famously ferocious quill portraits might suggest. Greeting me in the hallway of her cosy home, she leads me straight into the kitchen for a cup of tea, a slice of pound cake, and, it goes without saying, a steaming vat of freshest gossip. Well, of course, Dumbledore is a biographer's well, of course. Well, of course, Dumbledore is a biographer's dream, says Skeeter. Such a long, full life. I'm sure my book will be the first of very, very many. Skeeter was certainly quick off the mark. Her 900-page book was completed a mere 4 weeks after Dumbledore's mysterious death in June. I asked her how she managed this super-fast feat. Oh, when you've been a journalist as long as I have, working to a deadline is second nature. I knew that the wizarding world was clamouring for the full story, and I wanted to be the first to meet that need. I mentioned the recent widely publicised remarks of Elphias Dogue, special adviser to the Wizengamot and long-standing friend of Albus Dumbledore's, that Skeeter's book contains less facts than a chocolate frog card. Skeeter throws back her head and laughs. Darling Dodgy, I remember interviewing him a few years back about mer-people rights, bless him. Completely gaga. Seemed to think we were sitting at the bottom of Lake Windermere. Kept telling me to watch out for trout. And yet, Elphias Dogue's accusations of inaccuracy has been echoed in many places. Does Skeeter really feel that 4 short weeks have been enough to gain a full picture of Dumbledore's long and extraordinary life? Oh, my dear, beams Skeeter, rapping me affectionately across the knuckles. You know as well as I do how much information can be generated by a fat bag of galleons, a refusal to hear the word no, and a nice, sharp, quick quill. People were queuing to dish the dirt on Dumbledore anyway. Not everyone thought he was so wonderful, you know. He trod on an awful lot of important toes. But old Dodgy Dogue can get off his high hippogriff because I've had access to a source most journalists would swap their wands for. One who has never spoken in public before and who was close to Dumbledore during the most turbulent and disturbing phase of his youth. The advance publicity for Skeeter's biography has certainly suggested that there will be shocks in store for those who believe Dumbledore to have led a blameless life. What were the biggest surprises she uncovered? I asked. Now, come off it, Betty. I'm not giving away all the highlights before anybody's bought the book, laughs Skeeter. But I can promise that anybody who still thinks Dumbledore was...
Oh, not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Is everything happening fine on your end? I'm getting this error symbol. I don't know why. Let me know. What's happening on your end? Is it going finely? Everybody's okay? I'm getting the wheel. Little delay here. Okay, cool. I just got this error message. Just want to make sure you're good and caught up. Okay, good. Thank you. It's Katrina Joy's birthday? No way. Katrina Joy, you are my joy, and everybody's a joy today. You know you can do whatever you want to, 'cause it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Okay. But I can promise that anybody who still thinks Dumbledore was white as his beard is in for a rude awakening. Let's just say
that nobody hearing him rage against you-know-who would have dreamed that he dabbled in the dark arts himself in his youth. And for a wizard...
Why is there an echo? The ghost voice is on? It's gone now. It's gone now. I don't know why it suddenly happened. I didn't press anything in that regard. Who knows? Okay. Well, I pressed a different button. I guess it played around in that area. Okay. Apparently he peddled with dark arts in his youth. I don't know if that's true, but let's see.
And for a wizard who spent his later years pleading for tolerance, he wasn't exactly broad-minded when he was younger. Yes, Albus Dumbledore had an extremely murky past, not to mention that very fishy family, which he worked so hard to keep hushed up. I ask whether Skeeter is referring to Dumbledore's brother, Aberforth, whose conviction by the Wizengamot for misuse of magic caused a minor scandal 15 years ago. Oh, Aberforth is just the tip of the dung heap, laughs Skeeter. No, I'm talking about much worse than a brother with a fondness for fiddling about with goats. Worse even than the muggle named father. Dumbledore couldn't keep either of them quiet anyway. They were both charged by the Wizengamot. No, it's the mother and the sister that intrigued me. And a little digging uncovered a positive nest of nastiness. But as I say, you'll have to wait for chapters 9 to 12 for full details. All I can say is, it's no wonder Dumbledore never talked about how his nose got broken. Family skeletons notwithstanding, does Skeeter deny the brilliance that led to Dumbledore's many magical discoveries?
Kayleen's not on the stream right now. If Kayleen were on the stream, I'd give her a song, but she's not on the stream. Kayleen's a friend of mine.
He had no brains. Oh, how dare you, Rita Skeeter?
He had brains. I thought she said he had no brains.
He had brains, she conceded, although many now question whether he could really take full credit for all his supposed achievements. As I reveal in chapter 16, Ivor Dillonsby claims he has already discovered 8 uses of dragon's blood when Dumbledore borrowed his papers. But the importance of some of Dumbledore's achievements cannot, I venture, be denied. What of his famous defeat of Grindelwald? Oh, now, I'm glad you mentioned Grindelwald, says Skeeter with a tantalizing smile. I'm afraid those who go dewy-eyed over Dumbledore's spectacular victory must brace themselves for a bombshell. Or perhaps a dung bomb. Very dirty business indeed. All I'll say is, don't be so sure that there really was the spectacular duel of a legend.
She's really gross.
After they've read my book, people may be forced to conclude that Grindelwald simply conjured a white handkerchief from the end of his wand and came quietly. Skeeter refuses to give any more away on this intriguing subject, so we turn instead to the relationship that will undoubtedly fascinate her readers more than any other. Oh, yes, says Skeeter, nodding briskly. I devote an entire chapter to the whole Potter-Dumbledore relationship. It's been called unhealthy, even sinister. Again, your readers will have to buy my book for the whole story. but there's no question that Dumbledore took an unnatural interest in Potter from the word go. Whether that was really in the boy's best interest, well, we'll see. It's certainly an open secret that Potter has had a most troubled adolescence.
Bush, there's some great gifts just waiting to be created.
I ask whether Skeeter is still in touch with Harry Potter, whom she so famously interviewed last year. A breakthrough piece in which Potter spoke exclusively of his conviction that you-know-who had returned. Oh, yes. We've developed a close bond, says Skeeter. Poor Potter has few real friends, and we met at one of his most testing moments of his life. The Tri-Wizard Tournament. I am probably one of the only people alive who can say that they know the real Harry Potter.
What is that?
Which leads us neatly to the main rumours still circulating about Dumbledore's final hours. Does Skeeter believe that Potter was there when Dumbledore died? Well, I don't want to say too much. It's all in the book, but eyewitnesses inside Hogwarts Castle saw Potter running away from the scene moments after Dumbledore fell. Jumped or was pushed. Potter later gave evidence against Severus Snape, a man against whom he has a notorious grudge. Is everything as it seems? Well, that is for the wizarding community to decide. But they read my book! On that intriguing note, I take my leave. There can be no doubt that Skeeter has quilled an instant bestseller. Dumbledore's legions of admirers, meanwhile, may well be trembling at what is soon to emerge about their hero.
What a douche move. What a douche move. I mean, this happens a lot, right? This happens a lot, even in our world. Somebody dies and everybody's like, well, I don't know about this. This is the worst. This is the worst thing to do. Harry reached the bottom of the article, but continued to stare blankly at the page. Revulsion and fury rose in him like vomit. He balled up the newspaper and threw it with all his force at the wall, where it joined the rest of the rubbish heaped around his overflowing bin. He began to stride blindly around the room, opening empty drawers and picking up books only to replace them on the same piles, barely conscious of what he was doing, as random phrases from Rita's article echoed in his head.
An entire chapter to the whole Potter-Dumbledore relationship. It's been called unhealthy, even sinister. He dabbled in the dark arts himself in his youth. I've had access to a source most journalists would swap their wands for.
Lies! Harry bellowed, and through the window he saw that the next-door neighbor would pause to restart his lawnmower, looking up nervously. Thanks, everybody. Lies. Harry sat down hard on the bed. The broken bit of mirror danced away from him. He picked it up and turned it over in his fingers, thinking of Dumbledore and the lies with which Rita Skeeter was defaming him. A flash of brightest blue. Harry froze. His cut... Oh, we missed the music. There we go. His cut fingers slipping on the jagged edge of the mirror again. He had imagined it. He must have done. He glanced over his shoulder, but the wall was a sickly peach color of Aunt Petunia's choosing. There was nothing blue there for the mirror to reflect. He peered into the mirror fragment again, and saw nothing but his own bright green eye looking back at him. He had imagined it. There was no other explanation. Imagine it because he had been thinking of his dead headmaster. If anything was certain, it was that the bright blue eyes of Albus Dumbledore would never pierce him again. Oof. Sad chapter after sad chapter. Man, yikes. I did have a question though, because remembering somebody and bringing up stories, and he's saying like how important it was to ask, how he should have asked Dumbledore for his stories and so on and so forth, which he didn't do. I'm doing that a lot when I visit Germany. My grandpa is 98 years old, and he's still this cheeky old dude. He's still like got energy. It's crazy. But I every time I've been asking him stories, it's just crazy. His life is crazy. In Russia, he was put into jail, Russian jail, for 8 years, during communism, just for being a pastor. He was a pastor just because of that reason, communism. He was put into jail for 8 years. He's got insane stories from that time, like during a prison fight, lying underneath a bed to hide, and somebody's finger that got chopped off landing on the ground next to him. Oh, is there crazy lag? I don't know. But it's just insane. He's got so many stories, but also like really lovely stories. And one of the best things he said to me is, and which, maybe it's part of the reason I'm doing this. I've recorded him too. I recorded all this. He said, when you're telling stories, you're alive. Then you are fully alive if you're telling stories. I love that. So nice. But yeah, write down any kind of stories you've heard from, or you don't have to like write the full thing, but just like teasers of stories that you might have heard from your grandparents. Down in the chat. Or in the comments. Chapter 3, The Dursleys Departing. The sound of the front door slamming echoed up the stairs, and a voice yelled, "Oi, you!" 16 years of being addressed thus left Harry in no doubt whom his uncle was calling. I thought it would be the kiddo. Nevertheless, he did not immediately respond. He was still gazing at the mirror fragment in which, for a split second, he had thought he saw Dumbledore's eye. It was not until his uncle bellowed, "Boy!" that Harry got slowly to his feet and headed for the bedroom door, pausing to add the piece of broken mirror to the rucksack filled with things he would be taking with him.
You took your time,
roared Vernon Dursley, when Harry appeared at the top of the stairs.
Get down here. I want a word.
Harry strolled. I missed him. I missed Vernon Dursley, and this might be the last time that we see Vernon Dursley. This might be the last interactions because it's the last book. I doubt he's going to go back. That Rowling is giving him time at the end of the book to go back and hang out with the Dursleys. This is going to be the last section. If it isn't, don't tell me. My parents lived under Saddam in Iraq. They lived through Operation Desert Storm, where they would go to sleep not knowing if they'd wake up. Malutha, that is nuts! Hitesh Chalice, I hope I'm saying you're right. My grandma was married at 8 years old. It was common back then. Whoa! Grandpa was 13. She is now 90 and healthy. Wow. Crazy. It's nuts. It's nuts. It's crazy. Yeah, keep sharing. I really love reading these. Okay. Harry strolled downstairs, his hands deep in his jeans pockets. When he reached the living room, he found all three Dursleys. They were dressed for traveling. Uncle Vernon in a fawn zip-up jacket, Aunt Petunia in a neat salmon-colored coat, and Dudley, Harry's large, blonde, muscular cousin, in his leather jacket. Yes? Asked Harry.
Sit down,
said Uncle Vernon. Harry raised his eyebrows.
Please,
added Uncle Vernon. added Uncle Vernon, wincing slightly as though the word were sharp in his throat. Harry sat. He thought he knew what was coming. His uncle began to pace up and down, Aunt Petunia and Dudley following his movements with anxious expressions. Finally, his large purple face crumpled with concentration. Uncle Vernon stopped in front of Harry and spoke. Wow, so many stories here. My boyfriend's grandma shared a story about how her husband lost his leg standing on a landmine. Oof. My grandma was 97 when she passed a few years ago. When she was a child, her father built his family home with neighbors in the middle of the Dust Bowl in Kansas. Very cool. To tell a story of stealing a gun off a German officer in Holland. Wow. He was a breeder of horses. My mom told me amazing things about him, his grandpa. Wow. That's very cool. Okay. Keep it. I hope you're okay with these short interruptions with this in the story. If not, I can do it at the end. Maybe that's a better idea, so we can get the story, and at the end I can go back up and read some of these. Yeah. Okay, he stopped in front of Harry and spoke.
I've changed my mind,
he said. What a surprise, said Harry. Don't you take that tone, began Aunt Petunia in a shrill voice, but Vernon Dursley waved her down.
It's a lot of claptrap,
said Uncle Vernon, glaring at Harry with piggy little eyes.
I've decided I don't believe a word of it. We're staying put. We're not going anywhere.
Harry looked... I think he's telling him, get out of here. It's not safe for you here. Right? Harry looked up at his uncle and felt a mixture of exasperation and amusement. Vernon Dursley had been changing his mind every 24 hours for the past 4 weeks, packing and unpacking and repacking the car with every change of heart. Harry's favorite moment had been the one when Uncle Vernon, unaware that Dudley had added his dumbbells to his case since the last time it had been unpacked, had attempted to hoist it back into the boot and collapsed with roars of pain and much swearing.
According to you,
Vernon Dursley said now, resuming his pacing up and down the living room,
we, Petunia, Dudley and I, are in danger from
some of my lot, said Harry.
Well, I don't believe it,
repeated Uncle Vernon, coming to a halt in front of Harry again.
I was awake half the night thinking it all over, and I believe it's a plot to get the house.
The house? Repeated Harry. What house?
This house!
Shrieked Uncle Vernon. The vein in his forehead starting to pulse.
Our house! Houses' prices are skyrocketing around here. You want us out of the way, and then you're going to do a bit of hocus pocus, and before we know it, the deeds will be in your name, and...
Are you out of your mind? Demanded Harry. A plot to get this house? Are you actually as stupid as you look? Don't you dare! Squealed Aunt Petunia, but again Vernon waved her down. Slights on his personal appearance were, it seemed, as nothing to the danger he spotted. Just in case you've forgotten, said Harry, I've already got a house. My grandfather left me one. So why do I want this one? All the happy memories? There was silence. Harry thought he had rather impressed his uncle with his argument.
You claim,
said Uncle Vernon, starting to pace it again,
that this Lord thing...
Voldemort, said Harry impatiently. And we've been through this about 100 times already. This isn't a claim. It's fact. Dumbledore told you last year. And Kingsley and Mr. Weasley... Vernon Dursley hunched his shoulders angrily, and Harry guessed that his uncle was attempting to ward off recollections of the unannounced visit, a few days into Harry's summer holidays, of 2 fully grown wizards. The arrival on the doorstep of Kingsley Shacklebolt and Arthur Weasley had come as a most unpleasant shock to the Dursleys. Harry had to admit, however, that as Mr. Weasley had once demolished half the living room, his reappearance could not have expected to delight Uncle Vernon. Kingsley and Mr. Weasley explained it all as well. Harry pressed on remorselessly. Once I'm 17, the protective charm that keeps me safe will break, and that exposes you as well as me. The Order is sure Voldemort will target you, whether to torture you, to try and find out where I am, or because he thinks by holding you hostage I'd come to try and rescue you. Uncle Vernon's and Harry's eyes met. Harry was sure that in that instant they both were wondering the same thing, whether he would go and save him. Then Uncle Vernon walked on and Harry resumed. You've got to help. You've got to go into hiding, and the Order wants to help. You're being offered serious protection. The best there is. Uncle Vernon said nothing, but continued to pace up and down. Outside, the sun hung low over the privet hedges. The next-door neighbor's lawnmower stalled again.
I thought there was a Ministry of Magic,
asked Vernon Dursley abruptly. There is, said Harry, surprised.
Well then, why can't they protect us? It seems to me, as innocent victims, guilty of nothing more than harbouring a marked man, we ought to qualify for government protection.
Harry laughed. He could not help himself. It was so very typical of his uncle to put his hopes in the establishment, even within this world that he despised and mistrusted. You heard what Mr. Weasley and Kingsley said, Harry replied. We think the ministry has been infiltrated. Uncle Vernon strode to the to the fireplace, breathing so heavily that his great black mustache rippled, his face still purple with concentration.
All right,
he said, stopping in front of Harry yet again.
All right. Let's say, for the sake of argument, we accept this protection. I still don't see why we can't have that Kingsley bloke.
Harry managed not to roll his eyes, but with difficulty. This question had also been addressed half a dozen times. As I've told you, he said through gritted teeth, Kingsley is protecting the your Prime Minister.
Exactly! He is the best!
Said Uncle Vernon, pointing at the blank television screen. The Dursleys had spotted Kingsley on the news, walking along discreetly behind the Muggle Prime Minister as he visited the hospital. Wait, I'm trying to remember. Who's Kingsley? Who is this Kingsley dude? I'm sorry, I should know this, but I'm legitimately blanking on this. What are people saying? Kingsley Shacklebolt. Oh, right. He's in the Order of the Phoenix. Why does... Okay. You've been seeing walking like this Muggle Prime Minister. So he's, like, protecting him. That's what he's doing. This, and the fact that Kingsley had mastered the knack of dressing like a Muggle, not to mention a certain reassuring something in his slow, deep voice, had caused the Dursleys to take to Kingsley in a way that had certainly not done with any other wizard, although it was true that they had never seen him with his earring in. Well, he's taken, said Harry, but Hestia Jones and Daedalus Diggle are more than up to the job.
If we'd even seen CVs.
CVs, began Uncle Vernon, but Harry lost his patience. Getting to his feet, he advanced on his uncle, now pointing at the TV set himself. These accidents aren't accidents. The crashes and explosions and derailments are whatever else has happened since we last watched the news. People are disappearing and dying, and he's behind it. Voldemort. I've told you this over and over again. He kills muggles for fun. Even the fogs. They're caused by Dementors, and if you can't remember what they are, ask your son. Dudley's hands jerked upwards to cover his mouth. With his parents' and Harry's eyes upon him, he slowly lowered them again and asked,
There are more of them?
He's a bit younger, but I want to make him sound similar to Vernon. More? Laughed Harry. More than the 2 that attacked us, you mean? Of course there are. There are hundreds, maybe thousands by this time, seeing as they feed off fear and despair.
All right,
blustered Vernon Dursley.
You've made your point.
I hope so, said Harry. Because once I'm 17, all of them, Death Eaters, Dementors, maybe even Inferi, which means dead bodies enchanted by a dark wizard, will be able to find you and will certainly attack you. And if you remember the last time you tried to outrun wizards, I think you'll agree you need help. There was a brief silence in which the distant echo of Hagrid smashing down a wooden door seemed to reverberate through the intervening years. Right! Oh, all the way back to book number 1. Okay. There was a brief silence in which the distant Aunt Petunia was looking at Uncle Vernon. Dudley was staring at Harry. Finally, Uncle Vernon blurted out,
But what about my work? What about Dudley's school? I don't suppose those things matter to a bunch of layabout wizards.
"Don't you understand?" shouted Harry. "They will torture and kill you like they did my parents."
Dad, said Dudley in a loud voice, Dad, I'm going with these order people.
"Dudley," said Harry, "for the first time in your life, you're talking sense." He knew the battle was won. If Dudley was frightened enough to accept the order's help, his parents would accompany him. There could be no question of being separated further from their Didikins. Harry glanced at the carriage clock on the mantelpiece. "They'll be here in about 5 minutes," he said, and when none of the Dursleys replied, he left the room. The prospect of parting, probably forever, from his aunt, uncle, and cousin was one that he was able to contemplate quite cheerfully. But there was nevertheless a certain awkwardness in the air. What did you say to one another at the end of 16 years' solid dislike? Back in his bedroom, Harry fiddled aimlessly with his rucksack, then poked a couple of owl nuts through the bars of Hedwig's cage. Owl nuts? What is that? They fell with dull thuds to the bottom, where she ignored them. "We're leaving soon, really soon," Harry told her, "and then you'll be able to fly again." The doorbell rang. Harry hesitated, then headed back out of his room and downstairs. It was too much. Can you give me some adjectives for Hestia and Daedalus, if you can, please? That would be a great treats for her. Yeah, I just nuts for owls. Oh, they're just called owl nuts. Okay, gotcha. I thought there was like some specific Hogwarts world nuts. Everything's different at Hogwarts, even the nuts. Okay, excited voices. Sure. Excited. The music and the scene are hitting me in the feels. Diggle is really enthusiastic. Daedalus is quite cheerful. Enthusiastic and cheerful. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Harry hesitated, then headed back out of his room and downstairs. It was too much to expect Hestia and Daedalus to cope with the Dursleys on their own. Imagine fast-talking and little squeaky. Tiny dehydrated mouse brains. Owl nuts. Okay. Okay, so Daedalus is cheerful and quick and a little squeaky. Okay. And then, okay. "Harry Potter!" squeaked an excited voice. The moment Harry had opened the door, a small man in a mauve top hat. Is that Daedalus? Yeah, that's Daedalus. Daedalus was the wizard Harry met in Leaky Cauldron. Hestia is sturdy and calm. Okay, gotcha. Great. That's great. A small man in a mauve top hat was sweeping him a deep bow. Oh my gosh, what was that? "An honor, as ever." "Thanks, Daedalus," said Harry, bestowing a small and embarrassed smile upon the dark-haired Hestia. "It's really good of you to do this. They're through here, my aunt and uncle and cousins." Okay, what was she was sturdy and calm, bit more straightforward. Sturdy, calm, bit more straightforward. Okay. "Good day to you, Harry Potter's relatives." Oh no, "Good day to you, Harry Potter's relatives," said Daedalus happily, striding into the living room. The Dursleys did not look at all happy to be addressed thus. Harry half expected another change of mind. Dudley shrank nearer to his mother at the sight of the witch and wizard. "I say you are packed and ready. Excellent. The plan, as Harry has told you, is a simple one. said Dedulus, pulling an immense pocket watch out of his waistcoat and examining it.
We shall be leaving before Harry does. Due to the danger of using magic in your house, Harry being still underage, it could provide the Ministry with an excuse to arrest him. We shall be driving, say 10 miles or so, before disapparating to the safe location we have picked out for you. Oh, you know how to drive, I take it.
He asked Uncle Vernon politely. Okay, that works out. Mauve. Okay.
Know how to. Of course I bloody well know how to drive.
Spluttered Uncle Vernon.
Very clever of you, sir, very clever. I personally would be utterly bamboozled by all these buttons and knobs,
said Dedulus. He was clearly under the impression that he was flattering Vernon Dursley, who was visibly losing confidence in the plan with every word Dedulus spoke.
Can't even drive,
he muttered under his breath, his mustache rippling indignantly, but fortunately neither Dedulus nor Hestia seemed to hear him.
You, Harry,
Dedulus continued,
will wait here for your guard. There has been a little change in your arrangements.
What do you mean? Said Harry at once. I thought Mad Eye was going to come and take me by sidelong apparition. Oh, Hestia, she was more calm and straightforward. Can't do it, said Hestia tersely. Mad Eye will explain. The Dursleys, who had listened to all of this with looks of utter incomprehension on their faces, jumped as a loud voice screeched. Oh, Dedulus.
Hurry up!
Harry looked all around the room before realizing, the voice that had issued from Dedulus' pocket watch. Naturally, the pocket watch is alive. Okay. So I don't know how pocket watch sounds. Hurry up! Pocket watch. It's like if pocket watches could sound.
Harry,
I don't know. It's only 2 words. I don't need to find a voice for a pocket watch.
Quite right. We're operating to a very tight schedule,
said Dedulus, nodding at his watch and tucking it back into his waistcoat. Is this a play? Is he a play on the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland? Pocket watch.
This little guy, we got to go.
Oh yeah, Siri's voice would be great for the pocket watch. You're right. Okay.
We're attempting to time your departure from the house with your family's disapparition, Harry. Thus, the charm breaks at the moment you all head for safety.
He turned to the Dursleys.
Well, are we all packed and ready to go?
None of them answered him. Uncle Vernon was still staring, appalled at the bulge in Dedulus' waistcoat pocket. Thank goodness.
Perhaps we should wait outside in the hall, Dedulus,
murmured Hestia. She clearly felt that it would be tactless for them to remain in the room while Harry and the Dursleys exchanged loving, possibly tearful farewells. There's no need, Harry muttered. But Uncle Vernon made any further explanation unnecessary by saying loudly,
Well, this is goodbye then, boy.
He swung his right arm upwards to shake Harry's hand, but at the last moment seemed unable to face it, and merely closed his fist and began swinging it forwards and forwards like a metronome, backwards and forwards. This is what he's doing? This is what he's doing? Okay.
Really, Daddy?
Asked Aunt Petunia, fussily checking the clasp of her handbag so as to avoid looking at Harry altogether. This is so funny. Dudley did not answer, but stood there with his mouth slightly ajar, reminding Harry a little of the giant Grop.
Come along, then,
said Uncle Vernon. He had already reached the living room door when Dudley mumbled, I don't understand.
What don't you understand, Popkin? Asked Aunt Petunia, looking up at her son.
Dudley raised a large ham-like hand to point at Harry. Why isn't he coming with us? Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia froze where they stood, staring at Dudley as though he had just expressed a desire to become a ballerina. What? Said Uncle Vernon loudly. Why isn't he coming too? Asked Dudley.
Well, he doesn't want to,
said Uncle Vernon, turning to glare at Harry and adding,
You don't want to, do you?
Not in the slightest, said Harry.
There you are,
Said Uncle Vernon. Uncle Vernon told Dudley.
Now come on, we're off.
He marched out of the room. They heard the front door open, but Dudley did not move, and after a few faltering steps, Aunt Petunia stopped too.
What now?
Barked Uncle Vernon, appearing in the doorway. It seemed that Dudley was struggling with concepts too difficult to put into words. After several moments of apparently painful internal struggle, he said,
But where's he going to go?
Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon looked at each other. It was clear that Dudley was frightening them. Hestia Jones broke the silence. But surely, you know where your nephew is going? She asked, looking bewildered.
Certainly we know,
Said Vernon Dursley.
He's off with some of your lot, isn't he? Right, Dudley, let's get in the car. You heard the man. We're in a hurry.
Again, Vernon Dursley marched as far as the front door, but Dudley did not follow.
Off with some of our lot?
Hestia looked outraged. Huh? Oh, this is Hestia. I think. Off with some of our lot? Hestia looked outraged. Harry had met this attitude before. Witches and wizards seemed stunned that his closest living relatives took so little interest in the famous Harry Potter. It's fine, Harry reassured her. It doesn't matter. Honestly. Doesn't matter? Repeated Hestia, her voice rising ominously. Don't these people realize what you've done? What danger you're in? The unique position you hold in the hearts of the anti-Voldemort movement? No, they don't, said Harry. They think I'm a waste of space, actually, but I'm used to... I don't think you're a waste of space. If Harry had not seen Dudley's lips move, he might not have believed it. As it was, he stared at Dudley for several seconds before accepting that it must have been his cousin who had spoken. For one thing, Dudley had turned red. Harry was embarrassed and astonished himself. Well, thanks, Dudley. Again, Dudley appeared to grapple with thoughts too unwieldy for expression before mumbling. You saved my life. Not really, said Harry. It was your soul the Dementor would have taken. He looked curiously at his cousin. He had had virtually no contact during the summer or last, as Harry had come back to Privet Drive so briefly and kept to his room so much. It now dawned on Harry, however, that the cup of cold tea on which he had trodden that morning might not have been a booby trap at all. Although rather touched. Oh. So that cup of tea is... Dudley gave him a cup of tea? Little change of heart, little change of character there. Oh. It's really, really nice. He's grappling with his old understandings of what Harry was. It now dawned on Harry, however, that the cup of cold tea on which he had trodden that morning might not have been a booby trap at all. Although rather touched, he was nevertheless quite relieved that Dudley appeared to have exhausted his ability to express his feelings. After opening his mouth once or twice more, Dudley subsided into scarlet-faced silence. Aunt Petunia burst into tears. Hestia Jones gave her an approving look, which changed to outrage as Aunt Petunia ran forwards and embraced Dudley rather than Harry. Oh, screw you for ruining that moment.
So sweet, Dudders, she sobbed into his massive chest. Such a lovely boy, saying thank you.
But he hasn't said thank you at all, said Hestia indignantly. He only said he didn't think Harry was a waste of space. Yeah, but coming from Dudley, that's like... I love you, said Harry, torn between annoyance and a desire to laugh as Aunt Petunia continued to clutch at Dudley as if he had just saved Harry from a burning building.
Are we going or not?
Roared Uncle Vernon, reappearing yet again in the living room door.
I thought we were on a tight schedule.
Oh, yes, we are.
said Dedulus Diggle, who had been watching these exchanges with an air of bemusement and now seemed to pull himself together.
We really must be off. Harry.
He tripped forwards and wrung Harry's hand with both of his own.
Good luck. I hope we meet again. The hopes of the wizarding world rest upon your shoulders.
Oh, said Harry. Right, thanks.
Farewell, Harry,
said Hestia, also clasping his hands.
Our thoughts go with you.
I hope everything's okay, said Harry, with a glance towards Aunt Petunia and Dudley.
Oh, I'm sure we shall end up the best of chums,
said Diggle brightly, waving his hat as he left the room. Hestia followed him. Well, they're both delightful. They're both delightful. And the Dursleys did not disappoint. And Dudley. Nice change of character at the end. Nice change of character. Okay. Hestia followed him. Oh, there's more. Dudley gently released himself from his mother's clutches and walked towards Harry, who had to repress an urge to threaten him with magic. It's such a habit. Then Dudley held out his large pink hand. Blimey, Dudley, said Harry, over Aunt Petunia's renewed sobs. Did the Dementors blow a different personality into you? Dunno, muttered Dudley. See you, Harry. Yeah, said Harry, taking Dudley's hand and shaking it. Maybe. Take care, Big D. Dudley nearly smiled, then lumbered from the room. Harry heard his heavy footfalls on the gravelled drive, and then a car door slammed. Aunt Petunia, whose face had been buried in her handkerchief, looked round at the sound. She did not seem to have expected to find herself alone with Harry. Hastily stowing her wet handkerchief into her pocket, she said,
Well, goodbye,
and marched towards the door without looking at him. Goodbye, said Harry. She stopped and looked back. For a moment, Harry had the strangest feeling that she wanted to say something to him. She gave him an odd, tremulous look and seemed to teeter on the edge of speech, but then, with a little jerk of her head, she bustled out of the room after her husband and son. End of chapter. Yeah, those are interesting characters, right? I mean, Vernon Dursley, out of the, he's not evil, but he's not a good person. He's just not a good person. And there hasn't really been any redeeming qualities. At least I don't remember any from the books. He has no redeeming qualities. He's just a despicable uncle that has love in his heart for his son. Same with the mom. This, like, that slight turn, unless it's something else, it's just like a slight thing of, like, there still has this slight goodness in them that they're not letting out. They're still capable of good, but she has decided not to let that good out. And now Dudley, he is the one that has had a turn out of the three of them. It's kind of like there's Vernon, not good, doesn't allow any good in his heart. Unless towards Harry or just general good. We got, what's her name? Petunia, who it's a bit more clear that it's there. She did take Harry in. She is the sister of his mom. They did take him in for 17 years, so there's something that can be said about that. I mean, you can do something, and the fact is you did it. Whether your intentions were good and whether you did it well, the fact is you did do it. So there is that. There is that you can give the Dursleys. They did take in a 17-year-old boy, a baby, until he was 17 years old. So, yeah. And then Dudley, who had a turn. Yeah. All the Dudleys gang from the beginning of the order called him Big D. Dudley is young enough to change. I think everybody, I don't think you're ever old enough to change. I think it's more difficult to change when you're older, just because of habits and all that, but I don't think you're ever too old to change. It's hard to give props to the Dursleys. They gave Harry house space. That's pretty much it. That is true. But that is something. That's a huge thing to give somebody. But, there's only so much it goes. Yeah, that's all you can give the Dursleys. I thought the Goldilocks and I thought of Goldilocks and the three bears within this chapter. They didn't even give him a room though. That is true, Sharon. Yeah, they put him in a small. It's the bare minimum of good. The bare minimum. That's what. Yeah. Okay, the next chapter is called Chapter 4: The Seven Potters. The hell? What? The Seven Potters? Okay, so either he's going to multiply himself 7 times. Oh. What if, like, Voldemort has 7 Horcruxes that combined make him the most powerful person? What if Potter has 7 items? Something like that. Ooh. Keep reading, please. I'm sorry. I cannot today. I will keep reading on Monday. But I want to go through back towards some of the things, some of the stories you wrote out about your grandparents. I would love to read them. Here we go. What did you write? Oh, a whole bunch. You wrote down, my grandpa from the dad's side from Italy when he was a kid. My grandma from my mom's side from Germany. When she was 5-year-old, who was adopted by my great... sorry, I didn't really understand that one. I'm sorry. My grandpa was evacuated from Birmingham during the Blitz in World War II. She grew up, grandma, to be the secretary to the Lord Mayor of Birmingham, and she's now 92 and loves dancing. My grandfather was in the U.S. Navy during World War II. At one point, they were underwater for 62 days. You get out of here, Christine Garner. Get out of here with that. You're underwater for 62 days? He said people started to get squirrely. Yeah, no doubt. Imagine quarantine, but underwater. That's basically what it was for 2 months. Holy smokes. Also, one of my friends who recently passed, said her husband serving in World War II came home on leave to find everyone at his funeral. Whoa! Wow, imagine that. Oh, man. My grandpa was the youngest of 4 children born to Jewish immigrants from the Ukraine. He grew up in Brooklyn, and in World War II, he steered a ship right into a dock, causing significant damage to both. Woo! Heather Funk, my great-aunt used to tell the story of how my Oma saved her life, which was frozen in fear, as they crawled through a potato field to avoid soldiers. That is intense. Miguel Amador. Beautiful people... Oh, this is just telling people about the chats. Paratroopers from Operation Market Garden landed in my Dutch grandfather's farm. He is mentioned by the name in the book A Bridge Too Far. Wow, that is cool. Poor Nobody's Mom. My children and I were evacuated from the Philippines when MT Pinatubo went off never again to see a mountain. Oh, to see a volcano erupt at what? Important Nobody's Mom. That is incredible. You were back from the Philippines when the volcano went off. That is crazy. Wow. Josh Z. My great-grandfather owned most of the land on the Marblehead Peninsula in Ohio, which included the famous lighthouse. Built a house on the land which still stands as part of that state exhibited today. That is also awesome. Oh, it's just so cool hearing people's stories. John, in your opinion, which Harry Potter character would come home drunk at 3 in the morning? Oh, which Harry Potter character? Oh, it's probably Dumbledore. He seems like a rambunctious partier. Okay, I'm going back down to the bottom. To, any premonitions? Any premonitions? No, I don't have any right now. Okay, everybody. I'll be back on Monday. Have a lovely weekend. This is fun. The beginnings are also always a bit lighter, but this is probably the most heavy first part of a book until now. It's crazy that we're in the last book, but we're still gonna do, after this, we're gonna do the movies, we're gonna do the Cursed Child, and we're going to do some fanfic, which will be a lot of fun. But I'll see you on Monday. All the best. Much love.